Biden especially hasn't been doing a great job of making the lives of children better. I got some interesting information from Damian Jarrett, who is the advocacy director for the Walkaway campaign yesterday. He sent me these images about what's going on in public schools in Massachusetts. And to be quite frank, I just don't know what to say, guys. Sometimes like I still get surprised. I still get surprised by how parents will allow their children to be abused by the public schools. I thought I had seen everything. Nope, apparently not. Damien tweeted this out. He says, if your kid goes to school in this Massachusetts town, Salem, you are urged to send them with blankets, coats, gloves, hats, and scarves as they leave the windows wide open in classrooms and the cafeteria, regardless of temperature. They encourage eating outside down to 20 degrees. Let's take a look at these actual emails. 1. Our classroom window will remain open throughout the year, including these colder winter months. Please be sure to dress in layers. Bring a coat or blanket with you to keep warm, or bring a hat or scarf. And then this one, number 5, eating in schools. We will continue to encourage students to eat outside if the weather is approximately 20 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Even during these colder months, we are asking that windows remain open in all of our cafeterias and classrooms, regardless of the outdoor temperature. Thank you in advance for providing your children with appropriate clothing so that we can optimize airflow in our indoor spaces. This is because of COVID. They're going to give children pneumonia because they want to leave the windows open and make them eat outside when it is 20 degrees out now. I don't know where you guys grew up. I don't know where you guys live. I grew up in Vermont. Vermont is a pretty cold place. Does anyone know how cold it is when it's 20 effing degrees out and you're going to tell children that they need to go and eat their lunch outside when it's 20 degrees out and, oh, just send a blanket and that'll make it all better? You're going to tell children that they need to learn in a classroom that is freezing, so freezing, they need to bring multiple layers of clothing and blankets with them to a public school where the state is compelling them to be, paid for by your taxpayer dollars. You're going to tell me that is an adequate learning environment for children? But no, we just have to keep everyone safe. We just have to keep everyone safe by keeping the windows wide open in the classrooms. Are you off your nut? Would any of you allow your kids to go to this school? And this isn't even the only one because I tweeted this out and check this out. Check this out. I got this response. This is from another school in Massachusetts. Beginning tomorrow, we will no longer be having a snack time in the classroom for any grade level. With the spike in cases, we do not feel it is safe enough to have students in the classrooms without masks on at any point. We will revisit this in the spring when the weather begins to turn and we can explore outdoor snacks again. I know that many parents are intimidated by homeschooling. I understand. I understand that you have jobs. I understand that you may not think you can teach your kids. I understand that you may not know where to go for resources. But the public schools are abusing your children. If you aren't going to do anything about it, then why did you have kids in the first place? There are times, I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tear. There are times that I feel that I don't have kids. Why do I care more about how your kids are treated in public schools than you do? Yeah, Diane B in the chat and on YouTube brings up a great point. Why aren't social workers speaking up about this? What if a parent in their home forced their child to sit in a room all day in 20-degree weather with the window open, all day stuck in that room, all day, every day, kid gets pneumonia. All of a sudden, Child Protective Services are called in. Why are you forcing your kid to sit in their room all day in 20-degree weather with the window wide open? Well, they did it in school, so it must be okay. I just don't know how far it has to go before this stops. I don't know how far it has to go before parents wake up and start pulling their kids out of the flipping public schools. But guess what? An interesting thing happened today that maybe gives us a smidge of hope. There was an article in the New York Times that looked like it might be turning against the teachers' unions. Check this out. If any of you are surprised that the New York Times published this, you're not alone. But let's try to keep an open mind. When they do something correct, we should reward them, give them a little pat on the back. No way to grow up. For the past 2 years, Americans have accepted more harm to children in exchange for less harm to adults. What's going on here, New York Times? Didn't expect this attitude out of you. American children are starting 2022 in crisis. I have long been aware that the pandemic was upending children's lives, but until I spent time pulling together data and reading reports, I did not understand just how alarming the situation had become. Today's newsletter offers an overview of that crisis. If only there had been people that were screaming from the time this whole thing started that there were going to be problems. There were those of us that were doing that. But now all of a sudden, the left and the New York Times and the mainstream media have discovered that, oh my God, all of these policies hurt kids and maybe don't have a lot of return on investment. The toll: children fell far behind in school during the first year of the pandemic and have not caught up. Among 3rd through 8th graders, math and reading levels were all lower than normal this fall, according to NWEA, a research group. The shortfalls were largest for Black and Hispanic students, as well as students in schools with high poverty rates. We haven't seen this kind of academic achievement crisis in living memory. So you know what this means, right? You know what this means. The schools are guilty of systemic racism. The schools and how they're treating students throughout the pandemic with the masks and the lockdowns and the distance learning and the open windows and the no snack. The schools are creating racial disparities. Racial disparities, according to Ibram X. Kendi, is the very definition of racism. Anytime there is a racial disparity, according to Ibram X. Kendi, this is his definition, not mine. Anytime a racial disparity exists, the only possible way that that could be a reality is if systemic racism is the culprit. So it looks like the teachers' unions have been perpetuating systemic racism on the masses for the past 2 years. Many children and teenagers are experiencing mental health problems aggravated by the isolation and disruption of the pandemic. 3 medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, recently declared a national state of emergency in children's mental health. They cited dramatic increases in emergency department visits for all mental health emergencies. Yesterday on the stream, we talked about how adults are getting more and more angry. You can go back and watch that section of the stream if you haven't seen it yet. It's happening to kids too. I don't know if I can say that word. So attempts to end lives have risen slightly among adolescent boys, sharply among adolescent girls. The number of ER visits for attempts to end life by 12 to 17-year-old girls rose by 51% from early 2019 to early 2020. Gun violence against children has increased. As part of a broader nationwide rise in crime in Chicago, for example, 101 residents under age 20 were murdered in the last year, up from 76 in 2019. School shootings have risen. The Washington Post counted 42 last year in the U.S., the most on record, up from 27 in 2019. Many schools have still not returned to normal, worsening learning losses and social isolation. Once normal aspects of school time, lunchtime, extracurricular activities, assemblies, school trips, parent-teacher conferences, reliable bus schedules, and apparently closed windows on 20-degree days have been transformed, if not eliminated. When The Morning asked parents and teachers about the situation in their local schools, we heard an outpouring of anguish. This is no way for our children to grow up. It is maddening. For so many kids, school represents a safe, comfortable, reliable place, but not nearly for 2 years now. Well, no, for most kids, public schools are the only place they will ever experience violence in their lives. A lot of the joy and camaraderie that signifies a happy, productive school culture have disappeared. Behavior problems have increased. Schools across the country say they're seeing an uptick in disruptive behaviors. Some are obvious and visible, like students trashing bathrooms, fighting over social media posts, or running out of the classroom. Others are quieter calls for help, like students putting their head down and refusing to talk. Well, guess what, guys? When you make them wear a mask over the thing that they use to express themselves for 6 to 8 hours a day, every day for 2 years, that's going to inhibit expression. If you're wondering why students are not talking, the basic answer is because you forced them to wear masks. And when you force them to wear masks, it didn't just impact their ability to communicate with each other. It also impacted their self-esteem. It impacted their self-worth. Because our propensity to express ourselves verbally is directly linked to how we feel about ourselves. You know, I heard a story last week sometime, I think, from someone who was telling me that she was talking about how I'd been calling out the mental health crisis that masks were going to create from the very beginning. And she was telling me that she met someone who said, I'm going to keep wearing a mask even after this pandemic is over because I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I look, so I'm going to wear a mask over my face so I get to cover the way I look. I always said from day one that making people wear something over their mouths was going to create a mental health crisis in this country. And now we're starting to see the impact of that mental health crisis in this country. And it is impacting children the most because they were the ones that were forced to wear masks for 6 to 8 hours a day in school. You know, most of their teachers were mask Nazis, refused to take the mask off even when their parents told them to take it off because they got so used to wearing it. It became like a security blanket for them, not expressing themselves because they're wearing something over the thing they use to express themselves. So it's not as comfortable to talk. And because they're not expressing themselves, their self-esteem is going to suffer. And then you're going to have behavior problems and you're going to have mental health problems and you're going to have increased attempts at things that you don't want kids doing. There were some of us that have been screaming about this for 2 years, and the New York Times has just discovered it. There's a lot of swearing, vandalism, and some fights. Meanest, most inappropriate comments to teachers in 15 years of working. The variant is now scrambling children's lives again. Most schools have stayed open this week, but many have canceled sports, plays, and other activities. Some districts have closed schools for a day or more, despite evidence that most children struggle to learn remotely. Closings are now taking place in Atlanta, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Newark, and several New York City suburbs, among other places. The teachers' unions are demanding that we do it all again. Because of a variant that it seems is no more dangerous than a common cold, but check with the CDC for all your medical-related questions. Don't listen to me. The CDC is our god. Hard choices. For the past 2 years, large parts of American society have decided harming children was an unavoidable side effect of COVID-19. And that was probably true in the spring of 2020 when nearly all of society shut down to slow the spread of a deadly, mysterious virus. But the approach has been less defensible in the past year. And as we have learned more about both COVID and the extent of children's suffering from pandemic restrictions, data now suggests that many changes to school routines are of questionable value in controlling the virus's spread. This is in the New York Times. I don't want to hear any grief, YouTube. I'm reading directly out of the New York Times. Some researchers are skeptical that school closures reduce COVID cases in most instances. Other interventions, like forcing students to sit apart from their friends at lunch, may also have little benefit. One reason: severe versions of COVID, including long COVID, are extremely rare in children. For them, the virus resembles a typical flu. Children face more risk from car rides than COVID. The widespread availability of vaccines since last spring also raises an ethical question. Should children suffer to protect unvaccinated adults who are voluntarily accepting COVID risk for themselves and increasing everyone else's risk too? Right now, the United States is saying yes. You all know that I'm vaccinated. I got vaccinated so I could travel. I have no regrets about that, but it should be a choice. And if people have not made that choice, then that is their responsibility. We cannot keep shutting down society because of people's personal medical decisions. And particularly not when children are experiencing a massive mental health crisis. It makes absolutely no sense, and parents need to start demanding that it stops. If parents are not going to find their balls, and I mean that for women too, women have figurative balls. If they're not going to find their balls and stand up for their kids, then I just don't know what more can push them in that direction at this point. I just don't know. To be clear, there are some hard decisions and unavoidable trade-offs. COVID can lead to hospitalization or worse for small percentage of vaccinated adults, especially I don't even know if I can read this. I'm reading the New York Times. I don't even know if I can read this on YouTube. I don't even know if I can. I don't know if they'll give me a strike for this video. Check with the CDC for all your vaccine related information. Given the choices the country has made, it should not be surprising that children are suffering so much. New York Times. New York Times. Is the tide turning? Let's keep an eye on this. Because if the mainstream media, corporate media, what have you, propaganda arm of the DNC, if they turn on parents, or excuse me, if they turn on the teachers unions and actually start advocating for children, I don't know, man. Better late than never. Little disappointed it took this long. Little disappointed that this is a mental health crisis that we will probably not recover from in my lifetime. That was a completely avoidable mental health crisis. But, you know, I suppose it is what it is. So, guys, let me know what you think about that. As a reminder, you are watching Live at 5, a little stream that I'm doing on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays on this channel. On Fridays, I will be streaming as well, but I'm going to be doing it, not there, on a different channel. I'm going to be doing it on my second channel, Actively Unwoke. We're going to stream at 5 over there for happy hour on Fridays. If you have not yet mounted that like button, it would be amazing if you could do so. And of course, please make sure while we're sitting here, please make sure you join my locals community. You can join for free at kb.locals.com. If you would like to support the work I'm doing and help keep me independent, you can become a supporter in Locals, get all sorts of exclusive perks, including tomorrow at noon. We have our second community Zoom of 2020. We do open community Zooms twice a week in my Locals for supporters. We do them on Mondays at 7 p.m. and we do them at noon on Wednesdays to allow some other people who are in different time zones around the world or just available during the day to come and have a chat. It's a completely open forum. It is not recorded. You get to meet some great people. I have the best community on all of Locals. We also have a Bitchcraft coming up on Saturday. It is on Saturday at 3 p.m. I'll be putting some more information about that in Locals. Bitchcraft is a time when we craft on Zoom. You can bring your knitting, your crochet, your needlepoint, your laundry that needs to be folded. You can clean your gun. You can do whatever. You can do whatever craft you want. 3 p.m. on Sunday. We're going to be doing that in my locals. You can get access to that by becoming a supporter for $5 a month. You can also do it as an annual member at $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. And when you do so, you will unlock all the exclusive features in locals. All right, guys, for our last segment for today, oh, looks like we got some people. Deborah's going to be doing some watercolor painting on Saturday. Excellent. Patrice has got some sewing lined up. Fantastic. Sin is doing her crochet. I've got a nice little knitting project sitting right over here on the table. I've been working on this project forever. No, 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 no. My community is I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna throw down the gauntlet. My community is better than Viva's. My community is better than Viva Barnes. We have support groups. We have all sorts of stuff going on. I know they talk about the law and cases and all this stuff, and I'm sure it's really great because they're two really, really smart people. But come on, man. Come on. My community's the best. Does trimming cannabis count? Yes, as long as you share.